Well, I gotta say,
Yeah.
this deep dive into Amwell's Q3 2024 earnings call,
Right.
it's starting on a bit of a somber note.
Yeah.
Their stock,
Sure.
it took a hit after the news,
Of course.
and frankly, there are some headwinds they're facing
Yeah.
that we need to unpack.
You're right. It wasn't the most uplifting earnings call.
Yeah.
Amwell, for those of you just tuning in,
Right.
is aiming to be cash flow positive by 2026.
Okay.
And this quarter's results, they definitely raise some questions.
Yeah, that 4.6% year-over-year decline in total visits,
Yeah.
that was definitely a punch in the gut. What's
Wow.
going on there?
So Amwell pointed to what they called market-wide and client execution-related softness,
Right.
which honestly could use a bit more unpacking.
Yeah.
It seems like there are two main factors at play here.
Okay.
First, the telehealth market as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
it has cooled down after that huge surge during the pandemic.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
The stay-at-home boom is over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And second, Amwell seems to have hit some snags
Okay.
in getting new clients on board as quickly as they'd hoped.
Here.
That impacts visit numbers, obviously.
Okay, so that's the bad news.
Right.
And it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure.
But Amwell also had a major win this quarter
I did.
with the Defense Health Agency, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Huge.
The successful rollout of their converged platform for the DHA,
Right.
that is huge.
Yeah.
Remember, this is for the entire military health system.
Right.
A massive undertaking.
So walk us through the details. What
I-
exactly went live?
Converge scheduled visits for the DHA.
Okay.
That went live at the end of August.
Okay.
This is actually the second phase of the project.
Right.
The first phase, focusing on behavioral health,
Uh-huh.
that went live back in Q1.
Okay, 2 phases down.
Right.
So what's next?
Well, full enterprise-wide deployment
Yeah.
was initially slated for Q4 of this year.
Okay.
But it sounds like that might be pushed back a bit.
That's never ideal.
Right.
That a major red flag.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
These large-scale government projects, they are incredibly complex.
Right.
And timelines often shift.
Sure.
It's kind of like renovating a historic building.
Okay.
You never know what surprises you'll find behind the walls.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
So, big picture, why is this DHA contract so crucial
Well,
for Amwell?
it's not just about the size of the contract,
Okay.
although that's obviously significant.
Right.
It's about proving that Amwell can deliver on a massive scale
Mm-hmm.
for a very demanding client.
Yeah.
Think about it.
All right.
If they can handle the intricacies of the military health system,
Right.
they can handle pretty much anything.
Yeah.
It gives them a major edge in the competitive landscape.
So, a real testament to their capabilities.
Absolutely.
What about the contract renewal? When does that happen?
Next summer is when the renewal process kicks in. But the good news is
Okay.
the DHA has indicated they're leaning towards a sole source renewal
Okay.
with Leidos, Amwell's partner in this project.
That's a very positive sign.
It is.
Yeah.
Securing that long-term contract
Right.
would be a game changer for Amwell,
Okay.
providing stability
Right.
and a foundation for future growth.
So, DHA is the bright spot.
Yeah.
Visit numbers are a concern.
Right.
Let's talk about how this all shakes out financially.
Let's dive into those numbers.
First up, revenue.
Okay.
Did they at least manage to grow that?
Unfortunately, no.
Well,
Revenue for Q3 2024 was flat compared to last year,
okay.
coming in at $61 million.
Not great, especially with the DHA rollout happening.
No, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
And subscription revenue,
Right.
which is key to their long-term profitability,
Right.
also dipped slightly.
Yep.
However,
Yeah.
you're still projecting full-year subscription revenue
Okay.
to be flat compared to 2023.
Okay, so mixed signals on the revenue front.
Yeah.
What about their path to profitability? Any good news there?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
They've improved their adjusted EBITDA guidance for 2024.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Back up a second.
Sure.
For those of us who don't speak fluent finance,
Okay.
what exactly is adjusted EBITDA?
So,
And why should we care?
great question.
Yeah.
Adjusted EBITDA
Okay.
is a way to measure a company's operating profitability,
Hmm.
stripping away things like interest, taxes,
Yep.
depreciation, and amortization,
Right.
which can sometimes muddy the waters.
Okay.
So a positive trend in adjusted EBITDA, even with flat revenue,
Okay.
tells us that Amwell's cost-cutting measures are having a real impact.
So they're getting leaner and meaner.
They are.
Tell me more about these cost-cutting measures
Sure.
and how they plan to reach that 2026 goal of
Yeah.
being cash flow positive.
They're laser focused on three key areas.
Okay.
Reducing costs across the board,
Hmm.
getting their R&D spending under control,
Yeah.
and driving that higher margin subscription revenue growth.
Okay, so tighten the belt
Yeah,
and focus on the most profitable side of the business.
right.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And they're in a good position to do that.
Okay.
Amwell has a strong balance sheet
Mm-hmm.
with $245 million in cash and no debt.
But even with a healthy bank account,
Right.
hitting that 2026 target
Yeah.
isn't going to be a walk in the park, right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There are definitely risks.
Sure.
They need to ensure those cost reductions don't stifle their growth.
Right.
And they absolutely need to maintain that momentum
Okay.
in gaining new subscribers to their platform.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It sounds like it.
It is.
And this balancing act is happening as Amwell makes a broader strategic shift.
Precisely.
Okay.
They're moving away from just being a virtual urgent care provider
Mm-hmm.
and transitioning to a platform-based model
Okay.
that supports what they call hybrid care.
Now, that's something I want to unpack.
Okay.
What exactly does hybrid care mean? And why is Amwell betting on it?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Hybrid care blends the best of both worlds,
Okay.
in-person and virtual care,
Mm.
creating a seamless experience for patients
Right.
across their entire healthcare journey.
So instead of patients juggling a bunch of different apps and providers,
Yeah,
they have one central hub for all their needs.
exactly.
Okay.
Amwell wants to empower their clients,
Right.
the payers and providers,
Yeah.
to create what they call a single clinical consumer engagement pathway.
It sounds like they're trying to be the connective tissue
Yeah,
in the increasingly complex digital healthcare ecosystem.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why this strategic shift is so important.
Okay.
It's about addressing some of the biggest pain points in healthcare today, both for patients and for providers.
Okay, so hybrid care is the big vision.
It is.
Let's dig into that more in part 2.
Sounds good.
But before we move on, I want to get back to those softening visit numbers for a minute.
Okay.
Is that something specific to Amwell? Or are other telehealth providers seeing the same trend?
Yeah.
And what does this shift towards scheduled visits,
Right.
which seem to be less lucrative,
Right.
mean for their financial future?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah.
And they get to the heart of what we need to be watching closely
Okay.
with Amwell.
Yeah.
Let's explore those in detail when we come back.
Sounds good.
So you're absolutely right to
Yeah.
zero in on those visit numbers
Right.
and the shift towards scheduled care.
Yeah.
That's a crucial piece of the ML puzzle.
It's a bit concerning, to be honest.
Okay.
If their whole model is built around virtual visits
Right.
and those are declining,
Yeah.
that raises some red flags.
I understand your concern.
Okay.
It's not as simple as just looking at the total number of visits, though.
Okay.
We need to consider the broader context of the telehealth market.
Right.
And Amwell's strategic direction.
Okay, so let's do that.
Yeah.
First,
Yeah.
is this visit decline unique to Amwell, or are other telehealth providers seeing the same trend?
There's definitely a trend of softening visit numbers
Okay.
across the telehealth landscape,
Right.
like we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
The pandemic boom is over,
Right.
and things are settling into a new normal.
So the question is
Right.
whether Amwell is holding its own
Right.
within that new normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the shift from on-demand urgent care
Right.
to scheduled visits comes into play.
Remind us again,
She's-
what's the breakdown there?
Scheduled visits now account for a whopping 70%
Wow.
of Amwell's total visits.
Okay.
That's a significant change
Yeah.
from just a couple of years ago when
Yeah.
urgent care was the dominant force.
And why is that shift potentially problematic?
Well, scheduled visits
Okay.
typically generate lower revenue per visit
Right.
compared to urgent care. So even if Amwell is maintaining or even growing its overall visit numbers,
Okay.
the revenue generated from those visits
Right.
might not keep pace.
So it's a bit of a revenue squeeze.
Yeah.
They're trading high-value visits
Right.
for lower-value ones.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This shift towards scheduled visits
Mm-hmm.
is actually a key part of Amwell's long-term strategy.
Okay, help me connect the dots here.
Sure.
How does a decrease in revenue per visit
Yeah.
align with their goal of profitability?
It's all about building a sustainable platform
Huh.
for the future of healthcare.
Okay.
That hybrid model we were talking about,
Right.
Amwell is betting that by facilitating more scheduled visits,
Okay.
they can position themselves as the go-to platform for managing chronic conditions preventative care,
Okay.
and ongoing patient engagement.
Right.
That's where the real growth potential lies in the long run.
So they're playing the long game,
Exactly.
trading short-term revenue hits
Right.
for the potential of a larger, more stable revenue stream down the road.
Precisely.
Okay.
And they believe that this platform approach,
Yeah.
combined with their aggressive cost-cutting measures, will ultimately lead to profitability.
It's a risky bet, but if
Yeah.
they can pull it off,
Sure.
the payoff could be huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're trying to create a whole new market category for themselves,
Right.
the operating system for hybrid care.
Let's dig into that more in a minute.
That's good.
But first, I want to circle back to their financial performance in Q3.
Okay.
We touched on revenue
Right.
and adjusted EBITDA,
Mhm.
but what other key metrics should we be paying attention to?
Well, one area they highlighted
Okay.
was their success in controlling R&D spending.
Okay.
They've managed to decrease their GAAP R&D expenses by 5%
Okay.
compared to Q2,
Right.
and they're expecting that trend to continue.
That's impressive, especially considering they're in the midst of this massive DHA rollout.
It is. It shows they're serious about streamlining their operations
Uh-huh.
and becoming more efficient.
So R&D is trending in the right direction.
It is.
What about other areas of their business?
Oh,
Are they cutting costs across the board?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They've managed to reduce their sales and marketing expenses
Okay.
by $1.6 million
Wow.
compared to the previous quarter.
Okay.
And their general and administrative expenses are down $3.3 million.
Wow. That's a significant decrease.
It is.
They're definitely tightening their belts,
Right.
but is that sustainable?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Yeah.
can they keep cutting costs indefinitely
Right.
without impacting their ability to grow?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Finding the right balance between cost control and growth investment is crucial for any company,
Okay.
but especially for one in Amwell's position.
It's a delicate dance.
It is.
Too much cutting
Right.
and you risk stunting your growth potential,
Yeah.
but too much spending
Yeah.
and you never reach profitability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for Amwell,
Right.
that balancing act is even more challenging
Okay.
because they're essentially trying to build a whole new market at the same time.
Right. That hybrid care ecosystem.
Exactly.
Let's talk more about that.
Sounds good.
What does it look like in practice?
Yeah.
How does Amwell's platform actually empower this new model of care?
Okay.
And more importantly,
Yeah.
are they gaining any traction with it?
Those are excellent questions,
Yep.
and that's what we'll explore when we come back for the final part of our deep dive into Amwell's Q3 earnings call.
So we've talked numbers, we've discussed strategy, and we've established that Amwell is trying to pull off a pretty ambitious balancing act here.
Yeah, they are.
But what I'm still trying to wrap my head around
Sure.
is this concept of hybrid care. What does that actually look like for patients,
So
providers, and payers?
it's about breaking down the traditional silos between in-person and virtual care.
Okay.
Imagine a world
Yeah.
where you can seamlessly schedule appointments,
Mm,
access your medical records, message your doctor,
right.
get prescription refills, and manage chronic conditions
Okay.
all through one central platform.
So it's like having a personalized healthcare dashboard
Exactly.
at your fingertips.
That's what Amwell's platform is designed to do.
Okay.
It connects all the different pieces of the healthcare puzzle,
Okay.
from virtual visits and remote monitoring
Right.
to in-person appointments and specialist referrals.
And this benefits providers as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can streamline their workflows,
Right.
reduce administrative burdens,
Mm-hmm.
and give them a holistic view of their patient's health.
Okay.
Imagine a doctor being able to see not only a patient's virtual visit notes,
Right.
but also their recent lab results,
Oh.
medication history, and even data from wearable devices.
Wow.
That's powerful stuff.
It sounds like it could really improve the quality of care.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's not just about improving care.
Right.
It's also about controlling costs
Right.
by facilitating more preventative care
Yeah.
and chronic disease management through virtual channels.
Okay.
Amwell believes they can help reduce unnecessary hospital visits and emergency room trips.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And payers must be happy about that, right?
You bet.
Okay.
Payers are constantly looking for ways to control costs.
Right.
And a more integrated, proactive approach to healthcare
Yeah.
can be a game changer in that regard.
So it sounds like Amwell's platform has the potential to benefit everyone involved.
It does.
Patients, providers, and payers.
Absolutely.
But are they actually gaining traction for this drive?
They are gaining traction.
Okay.
One example they highlighted was their growing partnerships for virtual nursing programs.
Okay.
Hospitals are using Amwell's platform to extend the reach of their nursing staff,
Okay.
providing virtual check-ins,
Right.
monitoring and education to patients at home.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It frees up nurses to focus on more complex cases
Right.
while still providing high-quality care
Yeah.
to patients who don't necessarily need to be in the hospital.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're also seeing strong demand for their musculoskeletal programs,
Okay.
which provide virtual physical therapy and rehabilitation services.
Again, makes total sense.
It does.
Why go to a physical therapy clinic multiple times a week
Right.
if you can do many of the exercises and get guidance virtually?
Right.
Yeah.
It's about making healthcare more convenient and accessible,
Right.
which ultimately leads to better outcomes.
Okay, so hybrid care is a compelling vision.
It is.
And it seems like Amwell is making some headway in bringing it to life.
Yeah.
But they're still facing those headwinds we talked about.
Right.
The declining visit numbers,
Yeah.
the pressure to reach profitability,
Right.
and the challenges of building a new market.
It's a lot.
What are the key things we should be watching for
Wait.
in the coming quarters to gauge their progress?
Here's what I'd keep an eye on.
Correct.
First, that DHA contract,
Right here.
securing a long-term renewal is crucial.
Yeah.
It's not just about the revenue.
Okay.
It's about the validation it provides.
Right.
If the DHA is willing to bet on Amwell's platform for the long haul, that's a major vote of confidence.
Agreed. That's a big one.
It is.
What else?
Second,
Yeah.
watch their subscription revenue growth closely.
Huh?
That's the real measure of how successfully they're transitioning to a platform-based business model.
Right.
Are they attracting new clients?
Yeah.
Are existing clients expanding their use of the platform?
Right.
Those are the growth signals we need to see.
So it's not just about the number of subscribers.
Right.
It's about the depth and stickiness of those relationships.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally,
Keep an eye on how they navigate the regulatory landscape.
oh,
Telehealth is still a relatively new field,
Right.
and the rules of the game are constantly evolving.
yeah.
Amwell needs to stay agile
Mm.
and adapt to those changes to maintain its competitive edge.
It's a complex landscape,
It is.
and only the most adaptable companies will thrive.
Right.
So to sum it all up,
Yeah.
Amwell is at a crossroads.
They are.
They're trying to create a new paradigm for healthcare
Mm-hmm.
while simultaneously battling some tough industry trends.
Yeah.
They have a bold vision.
They do?
And they've made some impressive moves.
For sure.
But there are definitely challenges ahead.
Absolutely.
It's a story that's far from over.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds.
It will.
To all of you listening,
Yeah.
we encourage you to follow along with us.
For sure.
Dig into the source material.
Yes.
And form your own conclusions about Amwell's future.
Absolutely.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
The more you understand about the forces shaping healthcare,
Mm.
the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions
Right.
about your own health and well-being,
Absolutely.
and maybe even your investment decisions.
Well said.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
we'll wrap up this deep dive into Amwell's Q3 earnings call.
Sounds good.
Until next time,
Yeah.
stay curious, stay informed,
Absolutely.
and as always,
Yeah.
thanks for listening.